from where that interaction took place. I was down grabbing the stretcher off the ambulance.
Right. So when they were asked on camera whether or not to unlock a video, you wouldn't have been there to see Mr. Bean unlocked, right?
That's correct, yes, sir.
Now, do you remember specifically ever asking Darius Bean to unlock the handcuffs?
The first time I saw it, he had actually recognized from sitting in this room now. The first time that I ever recognized him even being on the scene is from when we got in the ambulance together, from when he was in the front seat with me.
All right.
As far as like any other interaction, I didn't recognize who it was until seeing in his courtroom today, seeing him in the just his familiar self sitting in the front seat with me.
And to be clear, you never remember him at all trying to do anything to obstruct your ability to get to Mr. Nichols. Am I correct?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
All right. And going back to the question that you were asked from Mr. Hagerman a few moments ago, you said something about a stabilization device. What do you call it?
We call it's interchangeable, C-spine or C-collar.
C-collar or C-spine. To your knowledge, and I guess based on your training, does that do anything to stop any brain swelling?
Not to my knowledge. Not what I know.
Does that do anything to help breathing?
It keeps the airway open, but it doesn't like force air. It just keeps the neck stabilized, so it's not giving oxygen or anything.
And consistent with your grand jury testimony, that's just about all that you would have done any different had you asked questions about what happened and had those questions said, well, this is what happened. That's what you would have done that would have been any different than what you already have testified that you did on that scene. Right?
So during the grand jury testimony, yes, sir. However, I've done more of research just on my own, and I've just came to a conclusion of what more I could have done.
Right. Now, and you did research on your own. Were you out there on January 7th doing research while you're on that scene?
No, sir.
And so you're saying that since you've been going to grand jury and being threatened to be prosecuted, et cetera, during those times, you researched what could I have done differently?
No,
right?
sir. Just on my own accord, just going through and just trying to enhance.
I might have asked a poor question. It wasn't on that night, though, right?
Yes, sir. That's correct.
And you're saying you did this, you researched this on your own after that particular night, right?
Yes, sir.
Somewhere between January 7th, I'm assuming maybe after March 7th, 2023, that's when you gave your grand jury testimony, correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, you were asked questions also regarding, and I want to be precise about this, you said that you saw Mr. Nichols yourself, right?
Yes, sir.
And you described seeing a head contusion, correct?
Yes, sir.
You also described seeing some blood in the mouth, correct?
Yes, sir.
So we got swelling, blood in the mouth, and you got clothing that looked like it had been at least disheveled, right?
Yes, sir.
And you saw these things yourself, correct?
Yes, sir.
Now, based off of your training, is that consistent necessarily with the person being pepper sprayed?
No, sir.
Based off of your training, is that consistent with a person who's being just tased?
I mean, depending on how they fell, it could be, but to my knowledge, I'm not too sure of like how he was tased or what. So again, that could be a hit or miss.
Y'all are watching the live stream. It's ended for today. This isn't live right now of the Tyre Nichols trial, the murder trial that's taking place.
That these officers had.
I don't recall hearing them.
You don't recall hearing any of that, but you do recall what you saw, right?
Yes, sir.
Based off of the contusions, the blood that you saw, the disheveled clothes, it was consistent with a person having been in an altercation, more so than a person just on a regular arrest scene. Yes or no?
Yes, depending on how they fell, if they were like tackled, because they said that he ran.
That's the defense attorney that's speaking right. That's all examining this witness.
From them being tackled and
beginning on Wednesday.
Handcuffs on them, but I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'll let you finish your answer.
But as far as like any like altercations and stuff, head, depending on how he fell, he could have a head contusion, he could bust his nose, and he could get a busted lip. But as far as other knowledge of like any altercations and stuff, I don't recall.
And so that conversation that we hear while you're out there, you weren't paying attention to that, right?
I didn't hear it, no sir.
I got you. And but you did observe, right?
Yes, sir.
And while you're on that particular scene, your care was limited to whatever Mr. Sandridge told you to do, right?
Yes, sir.
All right.
You did not hear.
And fighting with officers prior to any of this type of conversation regarding whether or not they told you X, Y, Z. You were told specifically that the person had been in an altercation with officers.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
But nothing at all about head trauma.
No, sir.
Not a thing.
No, sir. Or use of asp or punching or anything like that. An altercation can go for like many things, like just pushing and stuff like that. That can be an altercation. Or yelling, that's an altercation.
The important part was in head trauma.
Yes, sir.
He was asking you earlier about a conversation that you did not hear. He was asking if you didn't hear the conversation of the officers when you were treating the patient.
Yes, sir.
In particular, did you hear these officers talk about how many pieces they gave him?
No, sir. I didn't hear that.
So that conversation you just did.
No, sir. I didn't hear it.
That's all my questions.
Anything else? Ms. Witness? Now you're on. Those are all the questions we have for you. Step down. There you go.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, fam. I'm gonna stop this video right now. So the defense's case began on Wednesday in the Tyre Nichols case. For those that don't recall, what's up, everybody? First off, whoever you are, wherever you are, hope you are blessed and doing safe. This is our main story for tonight. We're talking about the Tyre Nichols murder case. Tyre Nichols, of course, you know that story that came out 2 years ago. It's hard to believe it's been that long back. In January of 2023, Tyre Nichols was a black vehicle, a black driver vehicle who was stopped by members of the Scorpion unit out in Memphis, Tennessee, where he was chased and beaten to death by these police officers. And these were black cops, by the way, although there was a white cop who they said was, we saw later on, that was involved. And there were 5 officers, at least that initially, that were charged. A couple of these officers have pled guilty, including this raising that head, James Tony looking nigga.
Memphis
Desmond Mills Jr. So he pled guilty already. And on trial, you have Tadarius Bean, who's represented by, so they have different lawyers, represented by John Keith Perry, Justin Smith, represented by Martin Zumak, Demetrius Haley, represented by Michael Stengel, and Stephen LaFleur. The former officers, Desmond Mills, was represented by Blake Balin and Emmett Martin III, represented by Bill Massey, Stephen Ross Johnson, and Catalina Goodwin, who accepted plea deals prior to a federal trial. So they testified against their former fellow officers. So Bean, so the lawyer, and I have pictures of everybody, of those people that are on trial, so everybody can identify who they are. Hold up. Give me 1 second. These are the men that were involved. Of course, yeah, I know about the presumed to be innocent, but Desmond Mills Jr., who's you're going to see in this video, he's going to testify Darius being on the right. He's on trial. And look, we hate to call it the Tyre Nichols murder trial because Tyre Nichols is not the one who is on trial. These men are on trial. So the three former officers are Justin Smith, Tadarius Bean, and Demetrius Haley. Now, in a moment, I'm going to play video because Mills testified in court. So we're going to play his video in just a second. So I want to do that. And let's see. Here's the video from this, I believe, wasn't today. This was a couple of days ago when Mills testified. So this is courtesy of Fox 13 out in Memphis. Fair use, fair use. This is being used for educational and commentary purposes. Copyright disclaimer is up. Let's play.
3. Explosive testimony in the Tyre Nichols trial. Former Memphis police officer Desmond Mills Jr. describing how he and other officers beat and kicked Nichols even when he was helplessly lying on the ground.
Yeah, and he was saying it didn't look good after he had hit him with the baton 3 times. He was on the stand pretty much all day yesterday. Fox 13's Dominique Dillon joining us live from downtown. So what's going to happen today, Dominique?
Val and Ernie, we can certainly expect to see more evidence, and we could also see more people on the stand testifying. Now, we're not exactly sure who's going to take the stand and testify, but during opening statements, the prosecution stated Preston Hemphill may take the stand and testify. Emmett Martin, who plans to plead guilty, could also testify. And then we've also learned that doctors who treated Tyre Nichols while he was in the hospital could testify as well. So we have some options on the people that could testify today. Desmond Mills Jr., who's pleaded guilty already, took the stand yesterday as part of his plea deal with prosecutors. And most of the questions from the state were to explain the chaos the night of Nichols' beating, while defense attorneys did their best to use what Mills has said before about what happened and his guilty plea against him. Mills acknowledged hitting Nichols 3 times with his baton while Nichols was on the ground. But he said he didn't know the extent of the kicks and punches his colleagues delivered on Nichols until watching body camera and Sky Cop video afterwards. He said he had trouble seeing what was going on at the time because he pepper sprayed himself.
My eyes were shut, and I heard the thump sound. And I heard after the second one, that's when I peeked my eyes open and I looked over and I seen Martin was punching Mr. Nichols. After I peeked and looked, I was wondering, I said, why is he punching him? And then I didn't want to look no more because it didn't look good.
Mills also watched body camera and Sky Cop video while he was on the stand. At 9 o'clock, things are expected to pick back up.
Yeah, explosive testimony from the witness stand yesterday, Dominic. Remember, Fox 13 is streaming the entire trial on our Fox 13 Memphis YouTube page, and we'll have live coverage of the case for you every single day there until a verdict is read.
Now, he admits to kicking and beating Mr. Nichols, but he says he doesn't know to that extent. Do y'all believe him? Now, he cut a deal. So he's cut a deal. He's pled guilty already. Obviously, he cut it to save his butt from going to jail. And so this trial is underway. I thought it's pretty quick. So the prosecutors rested their case back on Tuesday, and the defense took over on Wednesday. So you're talking only about 4 days of trial. So this trial started Monday. So it's going pretty fast. So he pled in federal. For those wondering what likely happened, I believe he pled guilty to federal civil rights charges and conspiracy. So, grand jury came back with a 4-count indictment against Martin and his 4 co-defendants. The charges included excessive force resulting in the death of Nichols, aiding and abetting each other in using that excessive force, failure to intervene to stop the excessive force, failure to render aid, and conspiring or taking action to cover up their misconduct. This was in August of last year. And so Martin pled guilty to counts 1 and 3 of the indictment. And count 1 charge, Martin was used with excessive force and failing to intervene. For those wondering where I'm reading at, this is the article. This is actually from the Department of Justice website that I'll put a link in the description, and I'll actually just let me remove this, and I'm going to actually share the article with you so you can actually see it yourself. So Mills pled guilty to civil rights and conspiracy charges. So the remaining defendants were set for trial on September 9th. But this is the state court. So what this man did, he cut a deal, obviously, to get, and he's now giving testimony to the state, for the state. So they're trying to chip away at accusations that the officers used unnecessary force to subdue Nichols. They argued that Nichols was actively resisting arrest by running away and failing to give his hands to officers so that he could be handcuffed. So Mills testified that he regretted his failure to stop the beating, which led to Nichols' death 3 days later from blunt force trauma. Dr. Marco Ross stated that after performing an autopsy, Nichols suffered tears and bleeding in the brain. As Nichols struggled with Bean and Smith, who were holding him on, Mills pepper sprayed Nichols and hit Nichols 3 times in the arm with a police baton, he said. Martin punched and kicked Nichols in the head, and Haley also kicked Nichols. By the way, the white police officer, Preston Hemphill, was the one who was at the traffic stop, but he wasn't on location at the beating. He testified that he heard Martin say, "Let go of my gun," after Nichols was forcibly removed from his car. It's not clear in the vehicle whether Nichols tried to grab Martin's gun. He was fired, Hemphill. However, he was not charged criminally, and I think because they couldn't show or demonstrate that he participated in the beating of Tyre Nichols. Yeah. That's Hemphill there. I recognize him. They also stated that the officers took a photo. So these officers are charged with second-degree murder, aggravated assault, and aggravated kidnapping. Official misconduct and official oppression. We'll see if by tomorrow the defense is going to rest their case. And then probably next week, they may go into jury deliberations of closing arguments before that. But family, we got to stay on top of this. This was a serious story. What's going on, Miss White? Just a terrible thing that happened to Tyre Nichols. Now, y'all know who the civil attorney is in the case is Ben Crump. Ben Crump was representing the family, if I'm not mistaken. I believe they had a settlement. that was reached civilly. If I'm not mistaken, if somebody correct me on that, they filed a $550 million lawsuit, and there was a trial that was reset. So the trial got reset. No, they didn't settle. The trial got reset. For those that are wondering, that civil trial is still pending and has been pushed back for a year. And the prosecutors in this case, this criminal case, they only called 5 witnesses to the stand. They called 5 witnesses. So he called Special Agent Derek Miller, a cybercrime investigator. He also called Dr. Marcos Ross, who was the chief medical examiner. So they didn't really call, it wasn't a long case. This is a very sad case. I always thought there was something personal about it, but yeah, this case with the Tyre Nichols case, yeah, the trial was reset. So the Shelby County prosecutors rested their case after calling 5 witnesses. And you all can read more up on that story, but I think that sounds small. So they had to call the chief medical examiner because, and I'm just going to explain, he had obviously the medical knowledge of how Tyre Nichols died, what caused his death. It's clear he was the victim of a beatdown. Why the 3 officers don't want to work out a deal, I don't know exactly. Maybe it's their right. They feel that they weren't offering them a good deal. Now, Hemphill never testified during a federal trial. That's true, too. Now, these 3 officers, by the way, all 3 former officers, the ones that didn't work out the deal, they were found guilty on felony. So they certainly not getting out on anytime soon on that. Martin and Mills pled guilty already to excessive force and failure to intervene. And the other defendants in this matter, which would be Haley, Bean, and Smith. So they got convicted on excessive force, omitting material information, basically, and trying to cover up the case. Also and this is another article you can see here. So I'm going to put the link in the comment section for everybody to check out. Hemphill didn't get fired, though. Hemphill didn't get arrested. Excuse me. I'm sorry. I didn't mean fired. He didn't get arrested. He was only charged criminal. He was only fired. That's it. So what say you, family? We're going to be monitoring this. I'm going to keep posted on this thing. It's a sad case. That civil suit, though, was not settled. Apparently, it's been reset to next year. Now, why it's been set out that way, I have no clue, except otherwise they probably were waiting for the criminal case to set forth. Ben Crump, his family, they filed the $550 million lawsuit. So this was come out. This was in January. The news covered this actually this year. This is in January. Why they reset this? That's my only reasoning why it's pushed out that late. Because even with the case pending, you still got to go through discovery. they still got to go through discovery, which is for the civil and in the civil side, both parties have to turn over any information, any depositions they may want to do with witnesses or interrogatories or requests for production documents, anything. That's what discovery is. So I'm gonna just play this video right quick. So we're gonna learn about this lawsuit. I want to know why it wasn't, why it's been postponed. So let's listen carefully.
New tonight, we learned today the family of Tyre Nichols will have to wait quite some time before their day in court over their $550 million lawsuit against the city. Thanks for joining us. I'm Richard Ransom. The civil case was pushed back significantly today. Our Kevin McNamara was at a court hearing when all these details were worked out. Kevin, what did you learn?
Yeah, Richard, it's been a lengthy battle for the family of Tyre Nichols, and it was decided today after some back and forth from attorneys on both sides that the federal civil trial for the family of Tyre Nichols in his death will be set for July 13th of 2026. That's all the way to next summer. Now, there's a couple of reasons for this lengthy delay. Number one, a lot of the defendants in this case, some of these MPD officers, are still on state trial, state criminal trial, and are defendants in that case as well. And they have a constitutional right not to incriminate themselves in something like a civil deposition. So it has to wait until after that case is concluded, and that could also take some time as well. Another lengthy delay that was discussed today is the new bombshell report on MPD by the Department of Justice that was released last month. Of course, anything involving MPD's patterns of behavior and practices are crucial towards the Nichols case. And attorneys from both sides said they need a lot of time to go over that, a lot of the documents underlying that report and everything else that goes into it to make sure that they have all of the information that they need before going to a civil trial in this case. Before, again, that trial date set for July of 2026. A lot of deadlines had already passed in this case. That was really why it was necessary to have this hearing today, to make sure everything stays on track. One of those issues is that the mediator has recently resigned in this case. Attorneys saying that they're actually back to square one now as far as agreeing on another one. So the judge presiding over this case has given them a 45-day deadline to do so and agree on a new mediator. And if they're not able, he will appoint one. So a lot to follow here down at the federal building, and we'll be doing so at ABC 24. For now, live in downtown Memphis, I'm Kevin McNamara.
All right, a long road ahead for the Nichols family. Thank you so much, Kevin.
Yeah, long road indeed. So they had to replace the mediator. That was one thing, and a lot of deadlines have already passed. So they're pushed this back because of this court date. So $550 million, that sounds like a lot of money, but shit, it should be $1 billion. Those officers hunted that man down, 5 of them, and then tried to cover it up. That's terrible. But we're going to be monitoring this, ladies and gentlemen. We pray for Tyre Nichols and his family. Certainly in this matter, it's a tragedy. All right. So that was our last topic. So the other thing I want to get into today, couple of things. So there's been an update. I want to discuss this. We talked about this over the weekend. Was the thing with Shedeur Sanders, and what happened with him, where there was a prank call that was made during the draft period on that Friday. Shedeur Sanders fell to the fifth round. He was projected to be a first round draft pick by all the major analyst as the top quarterback in the draft between him and Bo Dart. And Bo Dart was picked by the New York Giants, I think, 9th. The New Orleans Saints did not pick. The Saints had the 9th pick. The Giants, I think, had they think they went up to 6th, if I'm not mistaken. They picked Bo Dart. They went to get him. However, the Saints did not get a quarterback until the second round when they drafted Taylor Shuck, which it still got me shucked. But they never picked Shedeur. And it came out that Jax Albrecht, the son of Atlanta Falcons defensive corner Jeff Albrecht, had made a prank call to Shedeur Sanders, pretending to be NFL New Orleans Saints general manager Mickey Loomis. and it came out that he prank called him. This video went viral, and he put out his little pussy apology, because that's what it was. And I played the video for y'all. I can play it again so y'all can see. So the Falcons and Jeff Albridge have been fined respectively by the NFL for the prank and what happened. So Jeff Albridge actually spoke to Fox 5 Atlanta and held a press conference apologizing for what happened to Shedeur Sanders from his son. But I think his son is only sorry because he got caught. Otherwise, if it didn't go viral, and these kids are idiots. Did they honestly think by putting it on the internet, nobody was going to notice? Nobody was going to comment and call them out for it?
Jeff, do an opening statement. Open up a few questions.
First of all, I'd like to publicly apologize
Fair
to
use,
Shedeur
by the way.
and Sanders' family for what occurred. Second of all, I want to publicly apologize to Mr. Blank, Terry Fontenot, Reed Morris, and the entire Falcons organization. My actions of not protecting confidential data were inexcusable. My son's actions were absolutely inexcusable. And for that, we are both deeply sorry. The NFL has taken action, and I fully respect the punishment. We take full responsibility, my son and myself, and we will not be appealing the fine in any way. Going forward, I promise my son and I will work hard to demonstrate we are better than this. Again, I'm deeply sorry for our actions.
Questions?
Jeff, when did you become aware that he was involved in the situation?
After the draft, yeah.
Well, what was your reaction? How did you process it with your family and everything?
Yeah, obviously not happy and shocked. So I made the Falcons aware of the situation, and then our next course of action was to try to get a hold of the Sanders family so we could apologize in person, which we were able to do. The Sanders family, Shedeur and Coach Sanders, were amazingly gracious, more gracious than they needed to be in a moment like this.
That was a phone call?
Yes, and it was an opportunity for myself and for my son to apologize.
Just, what's this been like for you as a coach, and I guess family-wise as a dad for the last 72 hours?
Yeah, they've been challenging, but we brought this upon ourselves, and the fact that I didn't protect the data well enough, and my son did something. Obviously, he has a great amount of regret.
Can you go over again kind of how this happened? There's a statement about that you left the iPad open, but like kind of were you home or kind of what were the circumstances?
Yeah, at the end of the day, I did not protect confidential NFL data well enough with the device I have with the Falcons.
How hard was it for you to kind of manage the emotions of like you're coming off of such a fun and exciting draft, and then kind of having to deal with this one at the same time afterwards? Just how were you able to compartmentalize or deal with it?
Yeah, it's another part of the regret. Obviously, tremendous amount of regret for what my son did and for what I allowed and being neglectful in that way. But it's another part of the regret is there's so many amazing people in this building that did an amazing job in this draft process, and then to pull it off on draft weekend and do as well as they did, it's hard because those people should be celebrated in these moments, and they probably weren't as much as they should have been.
You mentioned wanting to go forward and demonstrate.
Yes.
That you're more than these discussions. Can you talk about what things you have in mind? There were some, I think it's one you were involved in.
Absolutely. We're in the process of that now, but it will be action. I promise you that.
One more.
Jeff, I know this is obviously incredibly emotional for you in so
So,
many different facets. But
let me stop there. I gotta because I don't want to get a little copyright strike, so I'm talking in between this. So he says he accepts the responsibility, the punishment that the NFL levied on him. He takes responsibility. He got no choice but to take responsibility. It was his information. He had the iPad, the contact information, and didn't lock it up correctly, and so he was able to. The son was able to prank call him and leak the information, but really the son should have been disciplined in some way, shape, or form. Well, he's not an NFL. A lot of people would say that. Well, he's not employed by the NFL or by the Falcons. His father is. So they punished the dad. He could have actually been fired for this. And who knows, Deion Sanders probably, he could have stated he didn't want the man to get fired.
Your employer as well.
But they've been messing with
it's something that
I
brought upon myself and my son brought upon himself. So it's one of those things where we gotta take this on the chin, and we absolutely are doing that and taking full responsibility. And I'm hopeful we'll grow and be better because of it.
His son is the one that should be apologizing. His son should be at this press conference saying, "I'm stupid."
So your dad is a defensive coordinator for the Atlanta Falcons.
Stephen Head Smith.
You go into his laptop computer and find a number for Shedeur Sanders. And you prank call him. First of all, it was cruel and it was classless to Shedeur. It jeopardized your dad. What if the Atlanta Falcons didn't believe it was your dad, that it was just you? What if they had believed it was him? And I don't believe that for 1 second. I don't believe the defensive coordinator for the Falcons. I don't believe that man did. I don't believe he had anything to do with this. I think it would be unfair to accuse him of that. But what if the Falcons didn't believe him? What if the NFL didn't believe him? Your dad could have lost his job. And because you want to prank somebody, okay, and be cruel and insensitive, knowing what Shedeur must have been going through, you would be some privileged little brat that would do something like that and take joy out of somebody's misery like that at the expense of your father right now.
So they find the NFL, just for those that are wondering, according to ESPN, the Falcons were fined $250,000 and Aldridge was fined $100,000. So overall, they were fined $350,000, but that money ain't going to Shedeur. That's probably going to go to the Players Association Fund, or who knows? It's, the NFL is a nonprofit organization, so it's going to go back to their coffers. Who knows? But it's not going to Shedeur, which actually should have happened, because they took advantage of Shedeur Sanders by doing this. Yeah, they don't like. One thing we learned, and they don't like confident black men. If anything has come from this, because the NFL has been in trouble, or I should say the former players in the NFL have been in trouble the last few weeks, and now a future player, and he's not technically in trouble, but they say he's brash, he's arrogant, he comes across, didn't put in work and all of this stuff. Black men are the only ones in this society, when it comes to work and trying to get a job, they can't be confident. We're always told to humble themselves. They don't tell that to the white boys. They didn't say that about Johnny Manziel. They didn't say that about Phillip Rivers, Tom Brady. And I mean, Brady used to talk trash. Brady cursed out his coordinator. They got in on T.O. for yelling at his offensive coordinator. Brady did the same thing. I'm hoping Shedeur, and he went to Cleveland. I'm hoping the brother has a successful run in Cleveland, ladies and gentlemen. Hit that like, share, and subscribe button. Shout out to my family on X, Rumble, whoever you are, wherever you are. Hope you're blessed and doing safe. And, of course, on ScrewTube. So I spoke about former players and a couple of things. So I'm moving on from Shedeur, but I'm glad. I'm hoping he has a successful career. But, yeah, it's the Cleveland Browns. But, yeah, that dad could have lost his job because his son's an idiot. Now, I want to talk about this because y'all remember, of course, Shannon Sharpe has been in the news. And news keeps continuing to get worse and worse for Mr. Sharpe. There are more women that have come out, a la Bill Cosby and P. Diddy and other black men. When one shark comes to the chum feeding, expect a bunch of sharks to come. The dinner bell has run. Now, Shannon Sharpe was supposed to have a $100 million deal. He was closing in on that, reportedly with Colin Cowherd's The Volume Podcast Network. Would be a $100 million distribution deal because he has Club Shay Shay and Nightcap, which has short in just a matter of not even 2 years. I want to say probably under 2 years, it skyrocketed into one of the top sports and entertainment podcasts in the United States. So Club Shay Shay became a powerhouse, pulling in, this is according to Yahoo News, pulling in millions of views thanks to Sharpe's interviews with celebrities, athletes, and cultural figures. Of course, everybody knows what he did with Cat Williams, which really blew up Club Shay Shay. I mean, I don't think he's going to get numbers like that anymore from anybody. But he's interviewed Monique. He's interviewed Ric Flair, Steve Harvey. But that interview with Cat Williams was big because Cat was roasting everybody. And, of course, even afterwards, Steve Harvey was hating on Shannon Sharpe or throwing shade at him. But now we know that Shannon Sharpe, of course, has been accused by an ex of doing some things, and she's run by Miss Gabby, who is supported by none other than Tony Busby. And so, because of this deal, because of these allegations, this deal apparently is in shambles. And nobody right now, he was on the ESPN part-time. He's had to step away from it. According to reports, they're even saying some women who are co-workers at ESPN, they're stating they don't want Shannon Sharpe back. The message, we know that the messages had leaked online. So he's had another, his former girlfriend, another accuser that came out and said that he did heinous acts. I don't know what the acts are about. As far as I know, there has she filed the lawsuit recently. Michelle Evans. So yeah, it's not looking great for Shannon, but this is the prototype, and I don't know why men like Shannon Sharpe can't be careful fooling around. You're 56 years old. You would think Shannon Sharpe would know better than to mess with an OnlyFans model, especially when she's talking to you in these matters. And look, I'm sure when you're an older man and a young girl, an attractive woman, and I've looked at her, she's not that, and she ain't all that. But men like attention. People like attention. Human beings have always liked attention, especially older people. When you get hit on by somebody younger or more pretty that gives you attention, that means something inside for some people. But Shannon has always been into white women like that. And apparently now he is paying the price, because even if these allegations are not true, and I don't think they are, I think all of it is a money grab, my personal opinion. But the fact that he has been accused of this and is associated with it makes it even worse. And so it actually has hurt his name, his brand, that he spent years building up. And think of this. You're on Fox Sports 1 with Skip Bayless, who dogged you out in front of the world, disrespected your NFL Hall of Fame career, and you branch off to do your own thing, your podcast, which became hugely successful almost overnight. Now, people who are under you, Mr. Sharpe, that depended on you for a job, that depended on you for money, who have their career, they're affected by this too. You fumbled the bag because of your lust. And I'm thinking, and honestly, and what he did, in truthfulness, Shannon Sharpe didn't commit a crime. Now, when I say that, I'm not talking about obviously the more graphic stuff she's alleging, but when I'm reading the allegations and what she said, it's hard for me to believe he did something like that. And the woman kept seeing him over and over again. It's similar to what happened with Bill Cosby and Andrea Constant, that she called him 70-something times even after the incident, that she got gifts from the man, that she spent the night over at his house when his wife wasn't around. This is all documented. Women are not allowed, and I'm going to say this, and this might set people off, but women are not allowed to be accountable today. I mean that, yeah. They're not allowed to be, in these situations, they're not allowed to be accountable. White women, and by that I mean white women in particular, you can screw up and do whatever you want. They're going to find a way to blame the black man. And Shannon wants to be all brothered down. This is the same Shannon Sharpe who said he didn't want to go to HBCU college. Skip, I wasn't really into it. I wanted to be there, like at the University of Virginia, where I played with the Bulldogs. Skip, I would have loved to have seen that. Have all the white women there. I would have ate it up. Yeah, exactly, Cheryl. Good evening. This is the same Shannon Sharpe. I remember when Shannon Sharpe and Ocho, I can't see the video, but if y'all ever look at it, if y'all remember a couple of months ago, Shannon Sharpe and Ocho Cinco were going in on this husband who accused Steve Smith of sleeping with his wife. Y'all remember that? Just an update on that, and this came out today. Steve Smith is being sued because in Carolina, there is a homewrecker law. So he's filed a $100,000 civil lawsuit against Steve Smith. Now, Steve Smith was a bad dude on the field. Steve Smith is like 5'8", but this guy, he was not a punk by no means. He grabbed safeties by the face mask, especially. I remember him having fights with the Saints. And he filed this, the husband of the woman who reportedly had an affair. This was a woman in the Baltimore Ravens marching band. He's suing for $100,000. This lawsuit was filed in Mecklenburg County Superior Court in North Carolina, accusing Smith of engaging in a months-long affair with the member of the Ravens marching band. The lawsuit states that the two met during the NFL's most interesting jobs with Steve Smith. They exchanged contact information and allegedly sent each other sexual text messages. The lawsuit then alleged the woman visited Smith in his hotel room in January. Smith, who also played for the Ravens, was back in town attending the Ravens playoff game against the Bills. And if you remember that video, there was a video where the husband purportedly was calling Steve Smith, confronting him, to which Steve Smith couldn't say nothing but, "I'm sorry." And it went silent. And Steve Smith hung up, allegedly, if that was Steve Smith. It sounded like him. And Shannon Sharpe, if y'all recall, Shannon Sharpe and Ocho Cinco were going in more on a man, saying, "That's between you and your wife. I don't know why he got the smoke for Steve Smith, but not her. She made her vows with you, not with him." Basically defending that. Yeah, I'll be more. Yeah, can you be more mad at your wife, obviously, than another guy for being a man? I guess so, a man thing. But still, he knew better, and he's married, allegedly. Allegedly, I don't know the facts of this, but the fact that this is coming out, and Steve Smith's been married for almost 25 years, brother. Everybody makes mistakes, but man, and I don't know their marriage. I don't know if it's true, but these guys basically are fumbling their bag over lust. They are fumbling the bag because Steve Smith might, guess what? Steve Smith, and I think this was a white woman, Steve Smith might be next with Shannon Sharpe. I wouldn't be surprised. This comes out, she files a lawsuit with this husband filing a lawsuit. The wife might throw him under the bus as a defense. He took advantage of me. He did this. I wouldn't be surprised. And that makes it tougher even for real victims to be believed when we get frivolous lawsuits. This stuff with Shannon Sharpe, it makes it tough for me to believe other people. It does. When you have people like Busby or Gloria Allred representing them, you think automatically, oh, this is about money. It's a money hustle. Is that all it seems that it is? That's all it seems to be, man. Anyway, guys, I'm going to wrap this thing up. I wasn't going to be too long, but make sure you hit that like, share, and subscribe button. Subscribe to our X page, my X page, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure you hit that notification bell. Hit that like, share, and subscribe button. If you are on ScrewTube, that's the only way to fight the algorithm. Ladies and gentlemen, if you love me for my time, please drop something in the Cash App, PayPal, or Zelle. To my family that are in the ATL, next Wednesday, I got to make this announcement. I am going to be in Atlanta. We're going to be in Atlanta, ladies and gentlemen, because I'm going to be performing some jokes at the Punchline. So I would like my family in Atlanta to come on out and be there to support your boy. If you're in the Atlanta area, I'm going to show you a link where you can get tickets. This is a video of it here. So, yeah, we're going to have a good time out there in the A. So you can get that tickets in that little QR code at the bottom. Wednesday, May 7th. It's gonna be a good night, ladies and gentlemen. So y'all come on out if you're out there in the A. All right, I'm gonna wrap up this video, ladies and gentlemen, this live stream. Good evening, Beverly and Cheryl. Yeah, Cheryl's been a supporter for a long time. I appreciate you. All right, y'all. Be one, be safe, and be blessed. I'll holla. Peace. Whoever you are, wherever you are, hope you are blessed and doing safe. Ladies and gentlemen, greetings, family. Of course, I'm tuning in. You see me without the glasses off today. But if you're looking for some opportunities, particular advertisement opportunities, then look no further at the link at the bottom to my email address. You can hit me up for advertisement opportunities. We are supporting and promoting your businesses here on this channel. You can also, if you would like to donate and subscribe to our Patreon, a link is at the bottom as well. So you have multiple ways in which you can advertise with the platform by emailing me when we go on through our live stream. You also have access to premium content, those that want to see premium content that you will not find here on YouTube or Facebook or Twitter, as I am suspended probably by now. You guys can check out the Patreon at link at the bottom. But advertisement opportunities, definitely email me, gavin.grich1@gmail.com for rates. And for the Patreon, it is the same as the YouTube channel. It is channel gboot2786. All right, I'll holla. Peace.